Hey guys, Peter here to do an album review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Warm Shepherd, Ritual Hymns, out January 14th on Unique Leader Records. The album has 9 tracks, 52 minutes in length, and this the band's second full-length studio album. They are an American black and deathcore band. For this record, they put together a phenomenal design, a phenomenal structure. The album is very fluid, very dynamic, very engaging, allowing the listener to stay connected with it from start all the way to finish. While having 52 minutes in length, this record has the playability of a 30-minute album. It has that sort of movement to it that you lose yourself in the experience of listening to the record, and you're not really concerned with where you are and where you're going and how long you've been in it. It's all about the experience that you're getting out of each and every single track. One of the reasons for that is that they use the same elements on every single song, allowing the record to feel balanced on one hand, feel very continuous, have a sense of fluidity from song to song, but at the same time alternating which element drives the experience from track to track, creates enough nuances, enough ebbs and flows that the record doesn't stay still, it doesn't feel stagnant, it doesn't feel repetitive, even though the same elements are coming in and song out. Perfect way of creating an album, perfect way of putting it all together so that the experience for the listener is as engaging, as entertaining as possible. Once you move into the soundscape, the album is very rich and it's very layered. You obviously have the black and deathcore as the baseline, but they also included other elements from brutal to slam to technical death metal and even symphonic elements. So this makes the album very rich, very layered, having a huge baseline to work with and making the album feel extremely large. The volume on this record is phenomenal. Now, for an album that has these many influences, these many layers to it, sometimes you would think that it would be really hard to digest a record like this because the sound experience would be so brutal, so big, that it really becomes hard to tell the forest from the trees. It's not the case with this record. You're able to understand exactly what is happening with each and every single element because they operate in different lanes, but they also intertwine perfectly in and out within the songs and from song to song. So while being a record that has this big sound, this big volume, this brutality coming at you song in and song out, you're also able to digest all the little details because the mixing and production are outstanding. You're able to see the big picture, but you're also able to see all the details that make that big picture extremely clear. Within that sound experience, you have to look at the drums and guitars as the two pillars. I found that the symphonic elements played a very important role, but not a pillar role. The role was more one of creating a glue that held everything together, that brought a little bit of a cinematic drive sometimes to the songs, that expanded the footprint of the record, and that hold it all together. But when you look at the pillars of this album, you really have to look at the drums and the guitars. The drums are outstanding, very powerful, very heavy, but not necessarily just grounding the album and creating this thick sound that doesn't allow the record to have a heartbeat. On the other hand, the drums actually have a lot of splash. They offer a lot of different nuances, creating a little bit of a soul, a little bit of a footprint, and a fingerprint that stays connected from song to song. You almost can always tell what the drums are going to give you song in and song out without necessarily knowing exactly the direction in which they are going. So this is an important element because once again, it doesn't allow the sound to become repetitive. It's always fresh with every single track. The same could be said for the guitars. The drive, the force, the heaviness, the power, the brutality, the technical side of it really allows this album to have a lot of life and pull the listener into different directions from song to song and within songs themselves. They were not afraid of changing the direction of the guitars, changing the sound perception, changing the texture and the layers in order to make the album come to life on every single turn. The sound of the guitars on this record really stands out to me because it has a lot of life in it. It has a lot of soul and it becomes almost a heartbeat of the record. You could really feel like it's the fuel that's been added to the fire in order to make the album as explosive as possible, but still be driven at the same time. On top of it all, you have a vocal performance that stays for the ages. The range is outstanding. The brutality that it adds is phenomenal. But to me, the main component of how the vocals come across on this record is a mixture of a narrator and a conductor. That's how it feels. That's how it comes across on every single song. You'll listen to this album and at times it feels like there's a story being told to you, and at times it feels like it's conducting the movement of the sound itself with the vocals behind it. Absolutely phenomenal. That texture, those layers, that ability to change the nuances of a track and how you feel towards the song just by changing ever so slightly the delivery becomes a very important element of this album, and it becomes something that you are able to gravitate to and hold on to from the beginning all the way to the end. You never get tired of that delivery, you never get tired of what the vocals are doing, because you're never really sure which side of this coin you're gonna get, the conductor side or the narrator side. But beautiful delivery, beautiful performance through and through. All around, this album feels very complete. I feel like it's very hard to find a default or a flaw within this record. When you look at the structure of the album, is perfect. For a 52-minute record of 9 songs, this album flies, and that says a lot about how they designed this record, how they structure it in order for the progression and fluidity of the album to be as impactful as possible. When you look at the sound, when you look at the balance of all of these different influences, all of these different genres coming together, really makes the experience rich, it makes the experience valuable, and it makes the overall sound feel very potent, cinematic at times. And then the glue on top of it all, those incredible vocals that really bring this record together. So this is one of those albums that within the genre of black and deathcore is going to stand out in 2022. I know it's very early in the year, but this album is flawless from start all the way to finish. Now, as far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with the Raven's Keep. Very mellow intro, musically and vocally, really eases you into the experience of the track itself. Then the song, just like a book, it opens up and it becomes a little bit more methodic and definitely heavier. It starts to move slowly, but with heaviness. The progression becomes a little bit more direct, it becomes a little bit more brutal. The symphonic elements come in, they blend with the overall atmosphere of the track, and next thing you know, you have a much bigger song. A lot heavier, a lot more thunderous, a lot more powerful, but at the same time, more dynamic. This is a track that doesn't stay still. It doesn't follow a linear path from beginning to end. It feels like it has a gradual movement upwards, but then it dips down and then it comes back up again. So it's very fluid, it's very chaotic, but it stays within a box, it stays within its confines, so it's very easy to understand and it's very easy to follow. I love the peaks and the valleys that it has. That incredible movement really brings this song to life. It has a lot of energy, and that energy is spread out throughout the entire song. The way it finishes by slowly disappearing into oblivion, it kind of comes together with the way it started with that very mellow intro. So it's a perfect way of closing, considering it how it started and how it moved in the middle. Next we have Wilted Moon, driven from the start. For a song that has the title of Wilted Moon, I was expecting it to be perhaps a little bit more atmospheric as it lays itself in. But no, it's pedal to the metal from the beginning. It has really, really heavy drums and a very technical guitar sound that really pushes the listeners forward. The combination of the two is super impactful, because on one side you have brutality, on the other side you have technicality, but the two intertwine perfectly, drums and guitars working together, and then the vocals come on top with just pure shed brutality that allows this sound to be so robust, in your face, very impactful from beginning all the way through. There are some layers of symphonic elements that, in my opinion, increase the atmosphere of the song, but they don't stay still, they don't stay linear. Nothing stays linear within this album, and definitely nothing stays linear within the song. So those elements move in and out, and every time they come in, they add a sinister, somber vibe to how the track feels, increasing the atmosphere of the song, pairing perfectly with the lyrical content of the track. And you can see the atmosphere of sound and the atmosphere of the lyrics and vocals becoming one. And then the sound around it morphs and moves depending on where you are within that storytelling aspect of the track. Blissful aspect from the symphonic elements, the darkness that it offers, the way it closes the track is just absolutely phenomenal. Last but not least, A Bird in the Dusk featuring Scott Ian Lewis. This song has a lot of the elements that we've seen throughout the entire record coming together as one. The rain opens up the track, so there's the sound of rain, this atmospheric element that's a really nice way of kind of gearing you into the song. It merges perfectly into how the track evolves and how the sound starts to grow. The drums are perhaps some of the heaviest and thunderous on the entire record. They're just powerful, they're just destructive all around. The guitars are a lot more dynamic, kind of pulling the strings as they move along. They really become the puppet master of how this track moves sound-wise. Vocally, the song is explosive, as dynamic as it is musically. This is a track that has so much volatility in it, both on both sides, musically and vocally. It's just so much volatility in it. You never know what it's coming around the corner. You never know if it's going to dip into a more melancholic side of the track, a little bit of a darker, somber feel, or if it's going to explode into this pure brutality, just pure aggression, and that really keeps you on the edge of your seat. Having two vocalists on the track, it allows it to be a little bit bigger. It gives you more tools, and it makes the song come to life, and allows the aspect of the track in terms of how the vocals come across, merging between that narrator and their conductor. The two styles that we see throughout the entire record come together in one single song. And this is why I say that this is one of those tracks that really merges all of the great elements that we see throughout the entire record, musically and vocally. A track that's an absolute roller coaster ride from start all the way to finish. This is it. Warm Shepherd, Ritual Hymns, out January 14 on Unique Leader Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.